The grant from the American Thoracic Society and the HPS Network has just been fabulous. It's made all the difference for my research. It's what really allowed me to get started and develop preliminary data. And from that grant, I've actually gone on and gotten over $700,000 from the National Institutes of Health to continue HPS research. The goals of our grant were to determine whether we could use HPS mouse models in order to learn more about what goes wrong in the lung cells in HPS, and thereby develop ways to approach preventing or treating the lung disease. We use HPS mice because they allow us to start at the beginning of the disease and see what starts the problems. Mice are also a way to test genetic therapies and test cellular replacements that would be very risky in people. So the idea is to start with experiments in mice and test the science and see what makes sense, and then think about what the most promising things are to actually test in people. The research that we've been doing is to look at what are called alveolar type 2 cells in the lung. They're cells that make surfactant and are very important for how the lung regulates itself and how it repairs and responds to injury. We've also been studying cells called alveolar macrophages that patrol the airways and are responsible for how the lung responds to injury in many ways also. So with the HPS mice, we've been testing how these cells work and testing how to fix these cells to determine which cells we need to focus our attention on to fix the lung problems in HPS. So in order to compete for large grants, such as through the National Institutes of Health, you generally have to have preliminary data. And what are called pilot project grants, or grants that start through patient foundations, really provide investigators such as myself the opportunity to develop that preliminary data to then be competitive for funding from other agencies over longer periods of time. Another way in which these grants are so special is because they really remind us of why we're doing research. For me, it's been such a privilege to do research on HPS because each day for myself and for the staff in my laboratory, we are driven by the hope that what we do will help patients. And so knowing that families and patients such as yourselves have worked to raise this money, it adds an extra level of urgency and of motivation to how that money is spent and what we learn from that. And I see that in my research staff as well, and how they approach the projects and the work that we're doing in HPS. Fort Wayne, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your efforts to support research and to support all the families with HPS. It's been such a privilege to have this grant. It's been such a privilege to be your ambassador and an ambassador for the HPS Network in trying to teach other pulmonary physicians and other researchers about HPS. Each time that I go to a conference and I present my research, I take with me the emblem of the HPS Network and recognize this funding that you've worked so hard to provide. And I hope in some small way that encourages other pulmonary physicians and investigators to work with us towards a cure for HPS.